everybody get up and run out, was the assistant pastor at Sacred Heart Church. Hello. I'll tell you this. My youngest daughter was talking to a group of people, and she said, my father was a former Roman Catholic priest, and my mother was the organist at the church. And she heard the voice in the back say, oh, I know where this is going. So anyway, at the age of 19, I wanted to go to confession, and as a child, I was always afraid of the confessional. I don't know if you know anything about the Catholic Church, but there's this little box in the back of the church. It's dark. You can't see the priest. You can just hear his voice. And I wanted a face-to-face. And Father Atkins was the sweetest. He was the kindest man. And I asked him one day if I could do a face-to-face. And he said, come to the rectory. That's where priests live. Come to the rectory, and we'll do that. So after I do my confession, I'd have no idea what I confess. I don't know what I was doing at 19, but you know, as a Catholic, you go to confession. After I finished my confession and he gave me absolution, he says to me, now may I talk to you about something that's been on my mind? And I'm thinking, okay, listen, this is a priest. You don't have to work. You're white. You don't have to do anything but say Mass, give out sacraments. What kind of problems could you have? Everybody loves you. And you want to talk to this little black girl about problems that you've got. And I said, sure, Father. He said to me, I have been considering leaving the priesthood for the last 2 years. And I said, there's no such thing. There's absolutely no such thing. He pulled out pamphlets and paper clippings and so forth about the mass exodus of Catholic priests from the priesthood in the 60s. I had no idea it was going on. And so from that night, I made it a point. I was going to convince him. This is April of 1966. I was going to convince him not to leave. So we got married December.
Wow.
It didn't work, and in the process of me trying to convince him not to leave, we fell in love. And we don't have any little kids in here, right? I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about. It's page 58.
Yeah, she is.
Listen, you want to put the business card in 58? Anyway, here's the thing. Like I said, when you're writing an autobiography, you have to tell the truth. I put in there because he told me, listen, I grew up in West Branch, Michigan, in a very Catholic, sexually repressive environment. Nobody talked about sex. I had no dates, no girls, no nothing. So I have never been with a woman. I've never kissed a girl. I've never, I never have. And I'm thinking, oh, well, this might be a deal breaker. I don't know. But so anyway, he said, I don't want. I at that point had not really said that I would marry him. I was really thinking that I would wait till he was laicized. Laicization means the bishop of the diocese intercedes to the Pope and says, this guy over here who's a priest doesn't want to be a priest anymore. And the Pope has to write the letter to relieve him from his priesthood duties. The bishop in Saginaw at the time was not doing that for anybody. And my husband-to-be had written letters to him saying, I want to be laicized, I want to get married, I want to have my own family, and they wanted to have him committed to a mental institution.
Oh no.
And anyway, you'll see how that happened. I was called in to the bishop's office, the bishop of Saginaw, bless his heart, and God rest his soul, and told that we were going to go to hell and that we had to leave Saginaw.
Oh wow.
Well, he died in 1990. I don't think he was in hell. I don't think that's going in. We didn't leave Saginaw until we wanted to. But anyway, so here's, I have these things going on from birth, from foster care, and then an abusive mother, then from an abusive mother to an abusive boyfriend, and then to this wonderful man that I married. But here, look, just this is the situation. Here is a white, 45-year-old ex-Roman Catholic priest marrying a black, 20-year-old Catholic girl. So we had all of the stuff in the 60s. First of all, interracial marriage was not popular. Priest leaving the priesthood wasn't popular. May December weddings, you know, this thing will work. We had all of those things to go through. And when we had our children, people would ask me, whose children are you taking care of? Because, I mean, you should see Catherine if you see Elizabeth, you know, if you look closely, maybe you can tell that she's biracial, but most people can't. And with Catherine, they can't at all. So we had all of these things, including the church. His family, his mother and his sister, disowned him, didn't talk to him anymore. But you'll see how that works out as well. And the reason I wrote the book at my children's urging, but after I wrote the book, I said, I do have a story. And what I want people to take away from the story is any challenges in your life that you face, if you put a plan together and work that plan and make up your mind that you are going to do what you need to do, you can overcome it. That's what I want to be. Just one more part, because I don't want to tell you the whole thing. Oh, I know what I was going to say. You can see I didn't write anything down, but I think I do better just talking from my heart. In the book, because my husband said I have never been with a woman, and I put that in there, and then all of a sudden he's a husband with 2 kids, I have to show you how that came about, and I do, very sophisticatedly, but that's page 58. But page 5, 6, and 7, you have to read those 2. That leads up to page 58. We were married 24 years. He died in 1990 of kidney failure. I was 44 and he was 68. So I've been a widow for a long, long time. One last thing is, in 1971, my daughter mentioned my career. 1971, we're sitting in the living room in our home in Saginaw. And my little girls are playing on the floor. My husband's sitting on the couch reading the paper. And all of a sudden in my mind, I start to add up the years. And I came to the conclusion that he's 50, right? He's 50 at that point. When they are ready to go to college, he's going to be retirement age. And I just said, I just blurted out, I got to get back to school because somebody's going to have to pick up this, somebody's going to have to get this money for our children's education. And he said, well, there was always a plan for you to go back to school, but why the urgency now? I said, because by the time they get to college, it's going to be time for you to retire. And he said, I don't have to retire at 65. And I said, but I want you to have that choice if you do. I go back to Saginaw Valley in 1971, finish my degree in 73. I'm working for the state. That's still not enough. So we devise a plan. I go to law school. We moved to Oak Park. I started University of Detroit Law School in 1976. I finished in 1979. Walk in May of 1980. My first job as a lawyer is with Michigan Employment Security Commission. And then I found that if you keep your nose clean in that plan again, and you try to get in the right place at the right time, and from that day on, things began to open up for me. I had 2 gubernatorial appointments by Governor James Blanchard. And it was the Republican governor, and I've been a Democrat all my life, Engler, who appointed me to 36th District Court bench in 1994. And then, in 2000, the Michigan Supreme Court asked me if I would be the chief judge, and I served 12 years as the chief judge of one of the major courts in this country. So I go from foster care to chief judge.
Amazing. Empowering, confident. Man, that's amazing.
And I keep saying one last thing. When you have biracial children, you have to give them more support and more information.
That's right.
Because they're different. They're just different. Especially if it's not readily apparent that they are I'm biracial, but you can tell I am. My children, you can't readily tell that they are. And I said, my husband and I said, everybody is not going to be happy that you're sharing the planet with them. But you have to make your own way. You have to be proud of both identities. And when they got to the point where they had to fill out documents, they checked all the boxes. My husband had a little American Indian in him too, I think, but he was mostly English and French, and I'm Italian and African American, and so they checked me. They're not going to deny either one of us, is what I'm saying. And what happened with all of the love, you're still going to get the slings and arrows from society. Too white to be black and too black to be white. That whole mess. But I'm very proud of them because they have grown up to be strong, Christian, loving, caring, successful businesswomen. And I attribute that to myself and my husband. And that's what we're here. If you have children, the very best thing I think God expects you to do is raise those children to be absolutely good people.
Right.
So at this point, I'm going to be signing my book. Everybody's going to be turning to page 58. Rosemary, the reason it's Rosemary is because that was the name my mother gave me, my biological mother gave me at birth. My name was Rosemary Lupo when I was born. It's on my adoption papers. And when the Bowmans adopted me, and they changed it to Marilyn Elnora, and the Elnora is after my grandmother. But it's the triumph of Rosemary, because Rosemary started behind the 8 ball, and that's how come that name is in the title. And the pictures on the book, the first baby picture, that's a picture of me at 6 months old, and that's the first baby picture ever that I ever saw. And when I learned at age of 10, when I was adopted, I said, oh, that's how come I don't look like a little, you know how newborn babies look, because I'm 6 months old, and I didn't know I was adopted, but you'll see that transpired. The second picture is a picture of my husband when he was a Catholic priest, and the third picture is the 4 of us as a family when the kids were just little. I encourage you to get the book, read it, laugh, cry, whatever, but take away, you can do it too. Thank you very much.